Go ahead. Turn it up. It's the Record Machine Show with your host, Jimmy Howe.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome singer-songwriter Dalia Davis.
Hi, it's Dalia. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Dalia?
Good.
Where are you calling from today?
From Boston.
Oh, nice. Grew up there?
No.
Where are you originally
I did
from?
not. I'm from the Midwest originally.
Oh, yeah? Whereabouts?
Yeah. Outside of Chicago.
Oh, nice. How long you been in the Boston area?
A long, long time.
Good.
I went to Berklee College of Music.
Uh-huh.
And that was back in the day. And I've stayed here ever since.
Very cool. They have a nice music scene there, right?
They do. It's fantastic. That's how I met Joe B.
Nice. Yeah, he's got a lot of cool friends out there in Boston.
He does.
He sure does. Now, tell me about your musical background. When did you first get involved in music?
Well, in high school, I started as a solo performer and played in coffee houses, playing piano and the guitar, and also formed a band with two other guitarists and singers. So we had the fun time of playing at my high school to play a dance there. So I've had a dual sort of path between solo performing and being in bands.
Very cool. Now, I read in your bio that you play multiple instruments. Which ones do you play?
I play piano and keyboards, and I've been in many bands and also solo playing those instruments, and also guitar and bass. I learned the bass in high school when we had a gig, and we had 3 guitars, a bass, and drums, and one gig the bass player didn't show up, but his bass was there, and somebody had to do it. So I jumped up on stage, put on the bass, and figured it out as I went along.
Nice. Now, I believe every band or artist is influenced by someone. Who were some of your influences?
Well, very much the Beatles. I don't know if you heard my Beatles Bridge medley.
Mm-hmm, I did.
Yeah, so you could see that was certainly a big influence, and I really, take a lot of their sound and to heart. Joni Mitchell was another big influence, this singer-songwriter kind of style. Early Steely Dan, I really liked their pop music when they had a band rather than session players, and I was lucky enough to see them in their early days. I also like Elvis Costello and have great respect for him and his career over the years. He's really done a lot of different genres and tried different things and is constantly reinventing himself, which is what I am doing. And Aretha Franklin was a big influence on my song, My Back Pages. My cover of My Back Pages, which is also on my album.
Awesome. Now let's talk about that album, Keep a Clean Engine. That's your latest album. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, who were some of the players? How did the album come about?
Yeah, sure. It took over 5 years to record. And the writing of the songs, I did it over a number of years. There were some older songs and some newer songs. And I wanted to make a polished recording of a collection of songs. So on the album, I arranged and produced everything myself, which was the first time I really had that role. And I sang lead and did backup vocals and played keyboards, acoustic guitar, and bass on 2 songs. And so it was exciting to be the musical director, since in my bands it was more of a group, democracy kind of thing. And I assembled a group of fantastic musicians. So I had a couple of Berklee instructors, drummer Larry Finn, Lauren Passarelli played on one guitar, and one guitar song. And many local artists contributed. And the challenge was finding musicians who would be the right match for each song. I also had a cello player and a violinist.
Wow. And
as a person who was sort of a purist about acoustic pianos, I really wanted to use a real grand piano to record the piano tracks. So I ended up going to a different studio than the one that I went to. And then we transferred the tracks over to the studio I was working at, Second Story Sound. And that piano studio had a Hammond B3, which I was honored to play to give it that nice soul sound on some of the recordings. Yeah. So that was, and another thing we did, which took a lot of time, was we sort of did we did multiple takes and then stitched together like the best pieces, the best parts of each take to create a final track.
That's awesome. Now, this podcast is going to feature 2 tracks off this release, The Power of One and Peace. What's the story behind those 2?
Okay. Well, Peace is a song that I used to do back in the day with my band, and I wanted a different arrangement for the song for the album. And I also do it as a solo performer. I'll be performing on Saturday around the Boston area. And so I needed to adapt it. And I wanted a different sound. And I worked with a drummer and a bass player on this track. And I said to them, what can you come up with? And the drummer came up with a totally different rhythm for the song that I was thrilled to hear. And so we went with his idea. And the guitarist for my old band played the solo. And I think it sounds really unique. It's been getting airplay throughout the U.S., and it's great to know that. I think it was also played in Israel.
Wow. And what about The Power of One?
The Power of One is an empowerment song. I see it as a person realizing their strength and their power and what they can accomplish, by just focusing in on their own strength and putting it out in the world.
Very nice. Now, you mentioned a few moments ago your version of My Back Pages, a Bob Dylan cover song on this album. What made you choose that song?
I had this idea floating around in my mind for a while that I was wondering what that song would sound like if it was slowed down and done in the style of Aretha Franklin. And particularly, there was one song I was thinking of, I Never Loved a Man the Way That I Love You, which has got that bluesy kind of slow feeling to it. And I sort of took that feel and applied it to the song. And it ended up coming out like with a lot of gospel influences. And I ended up doing all the background vocals myself on that because I had very specific ideas. I love to multi-track my harmony vocals. That's something I enjoy doing. And I produced the demos on GarageBand first before I gave them to the musicians so they could get an idea. But it's like, you know, that kind of feel?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I took it and I ran with it, and there you go.
Well, you did a phenomenal job on it. I love that that version of that.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Now, let's talk about songwriting. How do you approach it? What's your creative process like?
Well, it varies. I wrote a lot on piano earlier, and then I switched to more on guitar because my earlier songs were more complicated. For instance, Keep a Clean Engine is almost a classical piano piece. It has a classical feel to it, and it's quite complex chordally. And now I'm simplifying, and I'm going more to the guitar. So I don't have one method that I use for songwriting. Maybe I have an idea or a line, and I write from that. I have been doing some collaborations lately, too, interestingly enough, with my one of my band members from high school. We've been working on Zoom together.
Wow.
And so that's kind of fun. And it's not one thing or the other.
Yeah. I guess it depends on the situation, right?
Yeah. One thing I do like to do is sing away from an instrument. I found that playing an instrument while you're writing a song can sometimes be confining because you can sometimes fall into patterns that you've been playing for a long time. And if you want a fresh approach, it helps to take out that chordal or harmonic background and just sing and let the melody go where it wants to go. So I find that very useful.
Nice. What is it about music that makes you feel passionate?
I like communicating to listeners an emotion or a story, and having a rapport with the listeners that, especially in a live performance, it's really intense. If it's going well, that they can listen to you and feel what you felt when you wrote the song. And so I want to move people. I want to have them feel something or understand something more deeply. And that's what I'm passionate about. I also just enjoy singing very much and using my voice in that way because I look at the voice as another instrument. And I focused a lot on that.
Nice. Now, if you could do a duet or a collaboration with any artist, who would it be and why? Wow.
That's a great question. I'm like, I can't think of anybody right now, but can I get back to you on that? Because that's a really interesting question.
Sure.
Gosh, it would be somebody who I'd want to have somebody, with a voice that went with mine. So I'd have to think about like whose voices go with mine. I like the sound of a group like the Civil Wars. The sound with Gillian Welch and David, and the way their voices sound together, it's almost like it's one voice. And so that would be nice to have a duet with somebody that could sort of match the sound. But I'm not quite sure who that would be at this particular instant.
If Aretha was alive, you might want to do one with her, right?
Who? Oh, Aretha. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would be intimidated.
That would be
But
pretty
Joni
cool.
Mitchell would be fun too. But again, she had a very distinctive style. So, I'd have to think about that one. But there's a lot of good people that would be fantastic, and it might be nice to do a man too, just for the contrast.
Nice. What's the best piece of advice another musician ever gave you?
Well, let me think about that.
I'm stumping you today.
You sure are. These are great questions, though. I usually give advice.
Well, what's the best piece of advice you ever gave to another musician?
Well, one thing is patience, and don't sell out. Be true to your own voice. Be true to what you're doing, and don't. If like for instance, on my album, I have a lot of different styles. I have pop, I have folk, I have jazz, I have gospel. I have different, straight head rock. I have many different styles. And some people in the music business today would find that disconcerting because they want to pigeonhole you in one category. Mm-hmm. And I refuse to be pigeonholed because I like to do those different styles. And it's interesting it's a unique way to express yourself, and I don't want to be like sort of trapped in one style. Does that make me commercial? I don't know, but
it makes you original, I guess.
Yes.
How would you describe your music, your style?
Well, as I said, it has folk, rock, pop, soul, gospel, and jazz. But I think throughout all of it runs pop, because pop has really been a strong influence in my life. I mean, anything from Todd Rundgren's pop songs, the Beatles pop songs, and the early Steely Dan, and certainly the British Invasion, things like that. That's sort of been like a through line through my music. Mm-hmm. And of course, as a singer-songwriter, I do folk and that kind of thing. And I do have some folkier songs. Uh-huh. In fact, the 11 and a half song is very folky.
Nice. Now, are you currently working on any new material? And if so, when? When can we expect it?
I'm hoping by the end of this year or next year we'll have something. I'm not going to do a 12-song release this time. I'm going to do an EP, which will be shorter. And I'm really happy with the response that this album has had. Joe Viglione has been really helpful in getting tons of airplay for it. Mm-hmm. And I've also had it, the song My Back Pages was number 25 of the Folk DJ's most played songs in May of 2022 from the Folk Alliance. So that was a great thing. And it's been played, locally in Boston, throughout the nation, and in Europe.
Wow.
And so it's exciting to think. One of my exciting moments was listening to a live broadcast of them playing it from the UK.
Very cool.
And, I listened to BT Dawn. She played a 6-song block party of my songs, and I listened to that live. And it's just, wow, what a feeling to hear your song on the radio.
That's got to be something, right?
Yeah, I'm really just excited about that. And just the album itself, there's many different musicians, and there's accordion on there. There's all sorts of things on there that you wouldn't probably find all on one album.
There's something for everyone, I would say.
There is.
It's chock full of genre,
medley.
Right? Yeah, that's.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
The Beatles Bridge medley is just a very unique thing, and it's one of my signature pieces live. Mm-hmm. And people really, really seem to dig it. I just took the bridges of 14 Beatles songs, and they call it the middle eight. That's the part that never repeats. Mm-hmm. And I'm fascinated by bridges, personally. I've always loved them. I loved writing bridges. You'll find most of my songs will have bridges. And so I said, what would it be like, again, setting up a challenge, to take just the bridges and make a medley of those? from bridge to bridge to bridge, which involved like creating connecting parts and changing keys and figuring out what order they should go in. So it was quite an effort, and I was happy with the way it came out.
It turned out great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now,
did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, I really did.
Yeah.
I love the Bob Dylan one too. I think you did a great job on that. But outside of, you're welcome. Now, outside of music, do you have any hobbies or interests?
Well, I do like to garden.
Nice.
I have several gardens in my house, and I find it very relaxing. Mm-hmm. It's like you can get into a Zen state. I also like to walk
That's good
frequently
for you.
in nature and swim
Oh, very cool.
and hang out with the golden retriever.
Very cool. Are you a book or a movie buff?
Book. Oh, yes. Books. Constantly reading. I'm in a book club.
Uh-huh. What types of books you like?
Fiction.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty much fiction. I've read a ton of fiction and always have like a couple books going. And I'm a great fan of the library because you can go to the library, take them out, and then you bring them back, and they're not cluttering up your house.
Yeah, that's
What
true.
about you? Do you like books or movies?
I like a little bit of both. I tend to watch more movies because I don't really have time to read all the time. But I think the last book I read was the Genya Raven biography.
Oh, I saw that. Was that good?
Yeah, it's a great book. You should get it.
I want to. I like to read those biographies. I did read a couple things. I read Graham Nash's,
Yeah,
which is very good.
Genya was on the show a few months back.
No. Oh, fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
She must have been so interesting.
Oh, she was phenomenal. Great guest.
She's a house.
Yeah, she's funny. She was definitely a great guest to have on the show. So, do you have a website that you'd like to promote?
I don't, but I do. You can find my music online. I need to get a website, but you can find it on Spotify, and you can find it if you want to download it. You can find it on Apple Music, iTunes. So that's actually, as you know, preferable.
Do you have any social media accounts like Facebook or Instagram?
No. Well, I do have a Dalia Davis Facebook account.
Okay.
But there's not much on it, but I do have that. I think I need like a social media or like I need a person to help me with that. You know, and that would be really good because it's really hard to do all the music and then everything I do and and then still handle all that stuff too. Then Joe has been helping me with Twitter and promotion, which is great. And so I met him back in the day when our band put a record out on his label. So I think as a solo performer, I'm really an interesting mix of the rock, coming from the rock world, because we played at a club called The Rat here in Boston, which was like a notorious underground kind of, loud rock club. And then, so I'm coming from that, but I also have the folk side. And I think when I play out on folk clubs, I'm more rocked out than most people that they see there. Like I'm not sitting on a stool, crooning.
Gotcha.
So it makes me interesting, I think. We played at the Paradise Rock Club up here in Boston too, which was it's a really big with national acts there, and it really makes you feel great. They have, professional sound and things like that. But now I've been working, as I said, I'm trying to learn how to record myself, and I do have GarageBand, but I'm looking to upgrade to Logic, and I do make multi-track recordings at home, which I've been learning for the last couple years about how to do that.
Nice. Now, is there anything you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about today?
Well, Joe has anthologies, the Boston anthologies, and Rob Fraboni, who is a producer an engineer for the Rolling Stones, has remastered my song 11 and a Half,
Nice.
which was on the 21, Boston Anthology 21. And my song Peace is going to be the next Boston Anthology that Joe's putting out. And so I'm excited for that to come out as well. And I'm trying to see what else. I can't think of anything else right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got the EP coming at the end of the year, possibly, right? Or the beginning of next year?
Yes. And I'm selecting songs for that. I'm thinking and trying to write new songs for that. I am writing new songs for that. I'll be doing, again, a collection of older and newer songs, but I am looking forward to putting that out sooner rather than later.
Any guests on this one?
Any what?
Any special guests on this EP?
I hope so. They will be. There's a list in my bio, but I don't think the names would mean much to people who are not from Boston area. But the names are pretty big names out here from Boston, and just top-notch people. So I probably will be using some of those same people again, as well as doing the arranging and playing the instruments and singing the lead as I did last time. And when I did the harmonies for this last one, I had two backup singers, and I was the third singer. Mm-hmm. And I'd worked out all the parts before, so it was kind of neat to have that happen, since I'm a big fan of background vocals.
They do make the song.
Yeah, when I was in high school. I mean, I've been in choruses and choirs and that kind of thing, so I'm vocals is really kind of my thing. I even sang jazz. Mm-hmm. And scat singing. And when I perform, I do throw in a carefully curated cover from the 60s once in a while.
Well, Dalia, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really love this album. I think it's great. I love the cover versions that you did, and I'm looking forward to hearing this EP when it comes out at the end of the year or the beginning of next year. And when it does, I'd love to have you back on the show.
I'd love to come back. You're a great person to talk to, and you've told. I'm going to be thinking about those questions, the duet question, and I think it was the advice question. Was there another one that I was thinking about?
No, I think it was those two. The duet.
Yeah, those are excellent.
Yeah, so maybe you can answer those questions the next time you come on.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your thoughtful questions and your interesting questions they're not like run of the mill.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome, and like I said, you're welcome to come back on the show anytime. You got my phone number, you got my email, so let's stay in touch, all right?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And I think you did Pamela, too, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Joe mentioned that we are friends, and I played with her before, too, so she's a great person. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, thank you, Jimmy, so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and like I said, let's stay in touch, all right?
Okay. Thank you.
You have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace, why can't there be peace today? Please, we're sick of the games they play. Politicians, when will they listen? They know we want this change, but they can't see how much there is at stake. Will there ever be? Be peace today. Please, we're sick of the games they play. Ancient order clashes, turn the towns to ashes. Take the cash for just one bomb. Desert
audio podcast produced by Jimmy Howell Productions. All rights reserved. For information regarding distribution or adding this podcast to your website, please visit our contact page at therecordmachineshow.com to submit your request. Thanks for listening. See you next time on The Record Machine Show.
The Record Machine Show.